Okay, so we're going to be having the same beginning steps for hypothesis testing regardless of the method that we use. So you'll be given some kind of claim in a word problem. And the first thing you'll need to do is write that claim in symbolic form. Then write the null and the alternative hypotheses, and then determine the type of test that's required, a right-tailed test, a left-tailed test, or a two-tailed test. So let's just get right into it. So let's write down what the claim is here. So here's the claim in English. Let's write it in symbolic form. The mean ACT score. So I have to use the symbolic form of mean, and for a population, make sure you write mu and not X bar. So the mean ACT score for high school students is greater than 20.8. So there is my claim written in symbolic form. The next thing I'm going to do is write the null hypothesis, and the null hypothesis is always the original claim written with an equal sign, always, and it's written with an H naught, always. So here we did change the symbol. That's okay. Now the alternative hypothesis, some books write it with a capital A, some books write it with a 1. You look at the symbol in the original claim. For the alternative hypothesis, the only symbols allowed are the strictly greater than, the strictly less than, or the not equal symbol. If the symbol in the original claim is one of the ones that's allowed, then you keep it for the alternative hypothesis. So the greater than symbol is allowed, and so I'm going to keep it. Now for the type of test. The type of test is determined by the symbol in the alternative hypothesis. So if the alternative hypothesis has the greater than symbol, it's pointing to the right, and we will have a right-tailed test. Okay. So let's go on to the next part, question 2. At least 30% of married couples will eventually get divorced. All right, if we're talking about a percentage, then that means a proportion. So the claim in symbolic form is that the proportion of married couples who eventually get divorced will be at least. So at least is greater than or equal to symbol, 30%. And I need a number between 0 and 1, so you have to change 30% to 0.3. That is my claim in symbolic form. The null hypothesis is the original claim written with an equal sign, always. Now, the alternative hypothesis, which I'll write here with a 1, because different textbooks use different either H of A or H of 1. I look at the original claim. This symbol is not allowed for the alternative hypothesis. The only symbols that are allowed are strictly greater than, strictly less than, or not equal to. If it's not allowed, then what we're going to use is the complement. And the complement of greater than or equal to is strictly less than. Okay, so if I have, say, greater than or equal to 4, it would be that. And then the complement is everything that's not in there. All right, so that would be strictly less than 4. So another way you can think of it is if you have a symbol with equality, you flip the arrow and get rid of the equality. Okay. But we can only use a symbol that's allowed. And the alternative hypothesis, you're only allowed these symbols. Now that I have the alternative hypothesis written, then the symbol in the alternative hypothesis is the less than symbol, and so that means we will use a left-tailed test. So it's pointing to the left. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to scroll down. Contrary to popular belief, the mean temperature, okay, so my claim in symbolic form is that the mean temperature of the human body is not. So I'm going to use the not equal to symbol. And I'm not going to write the degree symbol. I'm not going to write Fahrenheit. We lose the units. My null hypothesis is always equality. And now when I get to the alternative hypothesis, well, what are the symbols that are allowed? Strictly greater than, strictly less than, and not equal to. The symbol in the claim is allowed, so I will keep it in the alternative hypothesis. And now for the test, since the symbol in the alternative hypothesis is the not equal symbol, we will have a two-tailed test. Let's go to number 4. The average age of smokers today is 32 years old. So again, we're talking about a mean, even though they've used the word average. So the average age is, so equals 32. The null hypothesis is always the original claim written with an equal sign, so there was nothing to change here. The alternative hypothesis, well, the symbol here in the original claim is not one of the ones that's allowed. So you take the complement. So this is not allowed for the alternative hypothesis. So I take the complement, and the complement of the equal sign is not equal. And so now I look at the symbol in the alternative hypothesis, and since it's the not equal symbol, it tells me I have a two-tailed test. Okay, now the candidate won her primary, but not by a majority. So the claim now, we're looking at a proportion. And so the proportion for that candidate that won, she got the most votes, but she did not get a majority. So her proportion of votes, basically she got less than or equal to 50%. You have to get more than 50% to be a majority. And I'm not going to write 50%. The proportion needs to be a number between 0 and 1. So the null hypothesis is the original claim written with equality, and the alternative hypothesis, this is not allowed. That symbol's not allowed for the alternative hypothesis, so I have to take its complement. And so if you have a symbol that has equality in it, an arrow with equality, flip the arrow and get rid of the equality symbol. And so the complement is going to be strictly greater than. And so now, finally, the symbol in the alternative hypothesis tells me I have a right-tailed test. So these are the beginning concepts of hypothesis testing, and once you have those, we're going to take them later on and use them in actual word problems to do the entire thing, and we're going to use different methods like the critical value method or the p-value method. And so those are our results in summary there. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video.